So after completely disassembling this thing, which I did successfully disassemble this, build quality ain't that bad. I mean, it ain't perfect, but it ain't that bad. You remember that floppy cock zoomies feature on this? Now I got it. I put a new O-ring in it, and it's a lot better now. So now it can even stand up on itself without collapsing. So just a simple little fix, no big deal. So after completely disassembling this thing and seeing what it's got, unfortunately I can't put a 70.2 LED in there. I would have loved to, but it's not capable of supporting it. I mean, there are LED drivers that will take and drive a 6 volt LED, but the problem is there's none available for a single cell lithium-ion battery, and that's just the result. So what I'm going to do is Cree has a 50.2 LED that's 3 volt, because that's what this operates. It's 3.4 volts or 3 volts or whatever. So with a Cree 50.2, it will be a hell of a lot better pattern than what this thing's got on Zoom. So, you know, like when you turn this thing on, you get the floodlight and stuff like that. You know, and then as you zoom in, you get this weird checkerboard effect, and probably the camera don't pick it up, but you could, I don't know if you can see it on the back wall or not. Yeah, you can. See that checkerboard? That's annoying as hell. And there's a lot of flashlights, these China flashlights, that have that. When you zoom in and you got that spotlight, you get the checkerboard. It's like, what is this, a game show? It's like, get out of here. So with the Cree, it's only got 4 segments, so I would only say you would see either 4 segments, or it'd be just completely one complete spot of light on a wall or whatever you're reflecting on. So, you know, that's that, you know, for the summary of this thing. And I checked out the 26650 battery, and I tested it, and it's not horrible, it's not great. So they claim it's 5,000 milliamp hours, and it come in at 3780 on my little tester. So a little shallow, but you know, what do you expect? But it's a lot better than these wannabes that only came in at 2500. So it's even good to be just to have the battery if you want a semi-decent battery and a charger, because this flashlight charges the battery too. Because it charges via USB-C, and then when you plug in the charger, these will turn red flashing to green, so it'll tell you that the battery is fully charged. So that is my intentions for this little China Pride flashlight. I've already made one mod, and I made the zoom less irritating. So it's not a bad flashlight. You know, if you need a good, if you're going to have a flashlight and don't want a nice one to beat the crap out of it and not worry about scratching it and throwing it around the vehicle or throwing it across the field somewhere. So not bad, not the greatest, but we'll do a little flashlight modding here, and we'll take this LED out and put a Cree 50.2 and see what it looks like. and call it a day for this one. And then I got 2 others that are coming. Another one is a single cell that I'll probably end up putting another 50.2 in it. And then I got a dual cell. It'll be same thing, almost carbon copy. And maybe we'll be able to put a 6 volt 70.2 in that, because most likely it has the same LED that this one does, because they all do. So we can improve on that. So that's that for this, a little overview of this Jamie Fire flashlight torch from Amazon. So we'll see you on the next video. Bye bye. Being on a series of videos of flashlights and stuff like that, you know, I just recently acquired this Amazon Jamie Fire flashlight for, you know, a couple of bucks. It's worth its weight in the battery and the charger that's built into the flashlight. And you get the little added feature of having a flashlight that works somewhat, but it can be improved on. So back in the day, you probably all had something like this. You know, your standard everyday plastic, or if you're real old school, you had one of them old metal ones that, you know, that was your flashlight. So you either had something like this, or you had something like this, you know. But now everything is LED now. You can't really buy these things anymore with the standard incandescent bulb. And even this one has an LED in it. So you know, over the years, you had all kinds of these little companies that would come out with these LED aftermarket flashlight adapters to convert your old incandescent flashlights into LED. You know, because, you know, something like this, it came with a spare incandescent bulb. And these things are becoming rare now, where you can barely find these things. So when you do find them, and you're still, you know, old school and want to keep this tradition alive, you better buy every single one that's on the shelf, because they're not going to be along for much longer. that's the reality of it. So you get all these little places that came up with these little LED ones. These little, and for these particular ones, these 2 cells, you either got a 1 watt or a 3 watt. That was the best you could get, and it still is true today. That you know, because you're limited on the voltage, and the construction of the flashlight can only carry so much current to begin with. So some of these high power LEDs, they can draw up to between 3 and 5 amps, which is quite a bit of power coming out of a flashlight battery pack. You know, and for me, you know, back in the day, the ultimate flashlight to have was your trusty mag lights. I mean, I always remember the Christmas mag light commercials. Remember them? That was the big thing. You wanted a good flashlight from your everyday hardware store, whatever it was back in the day, you got a mag light. And it was the classic ones with the incandescent bulb in it, and with the focusable head, and the aluminum aircraft anodized aluminum body, and the self-cleaning switch, and this and that, and all that other crap. And then it was a matter of fact of, you know, how many cells you wanted. Like this is a 3 cell, you know, then you got your 2 cells, your 4 cells, your 5 cells, 6 cells, you know, the big long ones where you could beat somebody with them. Which is why a lot of police departments back in the day, they had, you know, 4 to 6 cell mag lights, you know, because it also doubled as a baton, you know, to whip you back in that car. And you know, the same thing happened with these things. You know, people got tired of the incandescents burning out, and if you dropped this on the ground while it was on, most likely it would break the bulb and stuff like that. So same thing with these things. They came out with, you know, LED packages for them, you know, little aftermarket stuff like that. Because now the new modern mag lights, they come, you know, they sell them in LED packages. But you can't even get that little incandescent, the classic incandescent, yeah, say that one a few hundred times, incandescent bulbs anymore. You know, the ones that you just pop it in and put the little retainer on. You can't even get them flashlights anymore. They don't make them. They make a adapter now with a bi-pin incandescent bulb. But probably about 10 years ago, I bought these aftermarket LED lamps from whatever. These are diamondled.com. I don't even know if they're still in business, but they had these like 3 watt or 5 watt or whatever it was LED aftermarket things that you just you replaced your incandescent bulb for these, and it made a dramatic improvement on the output of these things. It was quite impressive for back in the day. This was like, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe longer. So that's what I've done with these things, but there's no batteries in them because I've lost several Maglite flashlights due to battery leakage. I lost one of these, one of my first ones, because all the cells inside, they leaked inside and you couldn't get them out. And if you did get them out, you had to do some magic to clear out the bore because it would make the aluminum swell. And then you couldn't get new batteries in because they should just slide right out, you know, easy in and out and stuff like that. So once I started noticing that the flashlights were being ruined by batteries, I stopped using them. I took out all the batteries and I set these off to the side. So then I started buying the more smaller mag lights, and same thing with them. You know, these came with the incandescent bulb, and you swap them out for several different LED type packages. Like this one's a little 3 LED. They're 5mm, you know, 20 milliamp little LED packages, but it lasted longer than incandescents and a lot longer lifespan. You know, and then later on, people came out with the 1 watt LED aftermarket bits and stuff like that. But the same thing would happen to these things. You know, the batteries would go bad and they would start rotting inside, and then you couldn't get the damn batteries out. You know, and if you did get them out, then you had to clean the inside of the barrels and stuff like that. So I don't have too many of these laying around anymore, just a couple with the batteries in them. And I don't use rechargeable batteries for these things because, you know, you get a whole package of them Amazon Basic alkaline batteries and just go to town with them. Just leave them in it because they're a decent battery, these Amazon Basics. So no sense screwing around with the rechargeables for these things anyway. You know, and then I think the latest, of course, it was common to have a 2-cell, but then Maglite decided to come out with a 3-cell. And I had a bunch of these things because they were already LED. So they had the 1 watt LED already built in, you know, that you could buy. And these were 3 cells. So it already had the factory LED in it. And they were fine. They were a lot better than, you know, incandescent and wannabe LED packages. So these things blew them away. And I had like 3 or 4 of these things, and this is the only one that's left because batteries took them out. And for whatever reason, the ones that I did manage to salvage, once that corrosion sets in, that's it. It's game over. You can't stop that. Once that battery acid or battery juice gets in the aluminum, that's it. It's done. You might as well just toss it. So then, then you go online and you can get just buried alive in different flashlight forums and this and that, and you can get into them cults where this flashlight's better than that one, this one kicks ass, and all that other crap. So you just say, oh, whatever. So then I decided to start picking a brand and sort of sticking with it, So I was a big Maglite user. I still am, because they're still around, but some don't have batteries. So then I started picking a brand. So then I picked a brand, and I just happened to pick up a brand, while watching a YouTube video, and that YouTube video was, Eric the Car Guy's channel. So when he was setting up his new shop, coming from his old shop to the new shop, this was quite a few years ago, before now he has to find a new shop. So he, has these coasts, and these coasts are actually a pretty damn good little flashlight. Like this one's a Zoomy, so you can focus the beam to wide beam to a narrow beam, and they're actually these are a decent flashlight where you can blind the camera out. Oops, there you are. And they got their own little rechargeable battery in it, that's lasts quite a bit of time. At least with Coast, they give you extra batteries, so you get a spare one of these to have on charge and on hand, and you get the AA or AAA adapter pack. So I never use them, because you're going to leave batteries in a flashlight, and most likely with alkaline batteries, they're going to leak and they're going to destroy, a decent flashlight. So I got this particular one. This is the A25R, and they make a little smaller one like this, and these are decent, and they're bright, nice and bright and stuff like that. So, cutting edge for me anyway. Back in a few years ago. And then you get one kind and you want another kind, so that's a kind of a big flashlight to carry in your pocket or something like that. So you get something a little smaller. You get these little inspection lights. These are decent too, nice and bright. And you get the focusable head where you can focus it. And this is the modern era where you focus it, and most likely it ends up in a square, and that's just the way it is, because the LED is square. So these are decent little flashlights and stuff like that. And it comes with its own proprietary battery, like that little cartridge. These little buggers are hard to find now, and what are available are expensive. It's crazy. Maybe someday China will make an aftermarket one that will eat your flashlight up alive in a couple of weeks after you put it in. So after having the Coast around, I says, I seen another one. I seen Fenix, F-E-N-I-X. And this was one of the first ones I bought, a Fenix flashlight. And this is the TK15C. And this is, this was my first 18650 flashlight, because this was back in when I started getting into 18650s and all that pollution of capacity ratings and crap like that. So this was my first Fenix, and this is a tricolor. So it has white, red, and green all in it, all at the same time. So you turn it on, and you get your normal mode of high white, and then medium, I guess, or low. So high, medium, low. and then you get into red. So you got a red light, and red light is good for night vision. So if you don't want to blind yourself, you use the red light. And then you got green. And green is very bright to the human eye, along with blue and white. The human eye is very sensitive to these colors. And this is just like daylight, but in green. And then you get you go back to white. And, then you got the silly flashy ones, the flashy modes, which drive some people nuts. So you get the strobe effect, and that's supposed to disorient, your attacker, stuff like that. And then you get the same thing with the flashing red and green to draw somebody's attention. And then you go back to your standard mode. These are non-zoomables, so you get, a spot with a usable, spillover effect and stuff like that. So that was that particular one. And then I got another one, because I'm insane. So then I got the highest power single emitter back in when these were being made. So these were the Phoenix TK16, and this is a non-zoomable flashlight and stuff like that. And both these ones have strike bezels. So one's more aggressive than the other one. Like the first one I showed has a lot more aggressive strike bezel. Ow. Then this one's really a high-powered light. And then you get that light. And this one has high, medium, low, and turbo. So you get there's high, there's low, there's medium, and then there's high, and then there's your strobies, and then there's your turbo. So low, medium, high, turbo, and then you go back. And this is that non-memory one. It has the memory. This is a memory flashlight, so it remembers where you left off, except for turbo. So if you turn it off and then turn it back on, it was at the last function of what you left it on, essentially. So if you had it on high, it will remain on high. If you had it on medium, it will be on medium next time you turn it on. So that's that. So I got to switch batteries because I got the warning symbol coming on because I talked too long about bullshit. So I'll be right back. So that was the Phoenix, and then I needed to get another flashlight for them UV curing glues, because I like the UV curing glues now instead of using super glue, because you don't have to wait. So to use the UV glue, you need a UV flashlight. So I bought the cheapest one that you could get, and it works. It's fine for what it does. Look real deep in that. And it does, this is a zoomy too, so it zooms in and out. Of course you can't see because it's too bright in here. But it's a zoomy. And even this little thing has a silly little strike bezel on it. This one's actually quite sharp. So I'd be able to slice you if I were to hit you with it. It works just fine. But it's like, I wonder if there's anything better. And of course there's always something better. So then I went on the Amazons and I found this thing. And this is a generic, this is your everyday, everybody and their mother in China makes these things, and they're all underneath all kinds of different names, and they're all the same thing. So this is one of them. This is one of my first, multi flashlights where it's got everything in it. It's got a little floodlight. It's got the different modes. It's got the UV in it. And then one button controls it all. So it's like you get the high, and it's a zoomy. So you get the flood, and then you get the silly little square square light way in the background there. So you get the square, and then from floodlight, and then you get the different modes. So you get the high, and then you get like, I don't know, medium or low. I think it's low. And then you get the silly flashing ones. This is the SOS, which is, you know, whatever. Then you get the UV, and you can actually see that there's two LED emitters in there. And oddly enough, when the UV's on, the white LED's on for whatever reason. I don't know if that's voltage sense or trying to protect the whatever reasoning and stuff like that. You know, and then you click it again, you get the side light that comes on, and it comes on red and flashing red and white to grab somebody's attention, and then off. So this is one of the little bit smarter ones. So, because some flashlights, to turn it on and off, or off more commonly, you got to cycle through all the modes, which is really annoying. Kind of like this one. You got to cycle through all three modes to turn it on and off. So that, you know, it's on, off, medium, low, flashing, off. So if you were turning on and push and hold, it doesn't turn off. It just goes to the next mode, which is kind of annoying, because some flashlights, they got several different modes. Some of them, they can have like 10%, 30%, 50%, 70%, 90%, 100%, and then turbo. So imagine having to cycle through all them to turn it on and off. So this one's a little bit smarter. So if you turn it on, if you push and hold, then you can turn it off. So that's sort of a nice feature. You know, this has got a magnet on the end of it and stuff like that, in case you want to stick it to something. So then I started getting into these things, because they're a little bit more higher power, because you're talking about, once you start getting into these dedicated flashlights with a 18650 or a 26650 or a 21500 or whatever the poison is, you're dealing with a real flashlight. Because with being LEDs, you need your voltage to drive the LED, or if it doesn't have a driver in it and it's direct, like this one, there's not a driver in it, it's linear. So whatever the battery voltage is what's going to the LED, except for when you go to medium or low or flashing and stuff like that, then there's a driver board in it. So that's that, you know. So then I started getting into these things, and, you know, because there's a lot of people out there, they buy these things and they mod them. I sort of like doing that. I'm not a junkie on modding flashlights and stuff, unless you can simply do it. You know, like these ones, I thought about making maybe this 3 volt into a 6 volt. That would have been cool, but there's not a driver available that can boost, let's just say 3 volts, even though a fully charged battery is 4.2. Let's just say there's not a boost module available to take your 3 volts and boost it to 6 volts. Yes, there is in real life, but problem is it can't carry the amperage, because a real Cree LED is going to draw about 3 to 3.6 amps at, you know, balls to the wall. So that's why they don't exist. So a dual cell, then you got a little bit more options, because I got one coming that's a dual cell, and I plan on making it a 6 volt, and that all determines if it's a 3 volt LED or a true 6 volt LED. And if it's a 6 volt LED, there's no sense of playing with it other than putting a real 6 volt Cree LED in it. What would be really cool is to make it into a 12 volt and a 2 cell flashlight. That would be cool. Whether it would happen, I don't know until I have it in my hands and see if I can play with it. Because most likely, the internal circuitry won't be able to handle the current of having a driver board on top of its driver board driving a 12 volt LED. It probably burn it out. So it might work, it may not. Most likely it won't. But I have plans for that. My plans is to maybe, if it works out, maybe putting a little tiny relay in there, and then driving the new board directly out the battery, and then having the internal circuitry, turning the flashlight on and off, drive the relay. So stuff like that. So that's all pending and research and development stages. So that's that. So then I came back to the mag lights, and I'm like, yeah, you know, these are cool. And I wonder if there's any upgrades to these things. And there are. And they're actually pretty nifty. So there's a couple of places online. You can go on either eBay or Lumencraft, and you can buy Maglite upgrades for any Maglite, whether it's a C cell or a D cell, and you can upgrade these things to the real high power LEDs, and they make a module that you take off the head, and then you take the LED out, or incandescent bulb if you're still running that. Take that out and ditch it. Then you put the new module inside the head. So you would take out the old reflector, and you drop in the new module, and then you put the bezel back on, and then you got a 3 LED retrofit kit for the head. And of course, you're going to have more voltage than what the alkaline batteries can handle. So instead of running 3 D cells, or 4 cells, or 5 cells, or 6 cells, you get an adapter to run 26650s, because you need 2 to drive a 3 LED module. So that would take this single LED flashlight and turn it to one kick-ass Maglite. The only downside is you'll lose the focusability, so you can't have a focus no more, which is not really a big deal. Because if you can light up the night with a spot and flood at the same time, or a spot with plenty of overflow of light, you really don't care about the focusability. If you want focusability, go buy a real, focus, they call it a thrower flashlight, where you can, some of them will throw almost 2 miles. You'd be able to almost, blind the space station. Yeah, Houston, we got this severe light at, the northeast of the United States. We have a problem. He's blinding us. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's just a nutcase down there. So that's that. And someday, maybe, if I collect a lot of money or win the lotto, I like to buy one of them big suckers, them big searchlights. That is a thrower and can throw almost 2 miles, and it runs off of 8 18650s, and with a little modification, you can take the 70.2 Cree LED out of it, the little itty bitty thing, and put I think it's a 35 something millimeter. It's almost as big as this flashlight head, LED in it. It's this big yellow blob, and then modify the reflector and the battery pack to run this thing. And this thing, it's stupid bright. And it's a handheld flashlight, you know, even though your hand is like this holding this thing, kind of like this thing. You got this thing, but you got a head on it that's probably maybe this big around, big honking, and that sucker lights up the night. Problem is, I would have to modify the reflector and the where the LED sits with a lathe, and I don't have one, so I would either have to buy one or find somebody who has a lathe that can cut out the opening on the base of the reflector and where the LED sits. But something in the future, it'll probably never happen. I don't know, because the flashlight itself is almost $300, and then you're going to have to buy the LED. I think the LED is like $50 or something like that, and then you got to mod it, you know, with a lathe. Or if you have to buy a lathe, that's like $1,000. Or if you can find somebody to do it for you, then you got just the cost of the flashlight and the parts and stuff like that. So just my little overview of flashlights. And then to wrap this up, to really make these things really scary, there's aftermarket strike bezels for the ring there, and then you got the tail braking, the glass braking tail point you can buy for this too, because you know, like I said in my earlier videos, you can use the strike bezel to break your way out, and you can do the same thing with this thing, but it takes a lot of force to break safety glass in an automobile. And if you do happen to be lucky enough to smash the glass, you're going to have so much momentum that most likely your arm is going to go through the glass too, and you're going to cut yourself all the hell. So with the point on the other end of the flashlight, I mean, it really is simple to break safety glass by just putting steady pressure on the glass, and it'll break. I mean, you don't have to, because you could go on YouTube and search, you know, breaking automotive glass, and you'll see these people just wailing away on the glass, and it doesn't shatter right away. They are bashing it. I mean, and sometimes it don't break, and that's just the fact. And it depends on what kind of glass it is, and how thick it is, and what the curvature of the glass and stuff like that. So if you're lucky enough if you're trapped on the inside and you're trying to break your way out, most likely you're going to cut your arm all to hell. And if you happen to cut right here, you ain't got long to live. So it's better to have, you know, they make them little braking hammers. It's got the same thing, where all you got to do, boop, and it's just that sharp point that breaks the glass, not a big round bezel. So all you got to do, I mean, it's simple. I mean, there's YouTube videos on people breaking automotive glass with a simple screwdriver. I mean, they just push, gone. Then you can use the flashlight at the other end to break your way out, and then you're good. So that's that for I guess bullshit shit show flashlight 101. So we'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.